Hi guys, it is Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing and I'm here with another weekly wrap up as always. I had a really good reading week this week and the first book that I finished is a book I think I briefly mentioned last week, which is Faithful by Alice Hoffman. This is a book that I got from NetGalley and it was a really great read. I really enjoyed it. This is about a girl called Shelby, and when Shelby was about 17-18 years old she was in a car accident that left her best friend in a coma-like state, and basically Shelby is going around with this kind of survivor's guilt and she believes that it was her fault that this accident happened and that she should have been the one to have been really badly injured instead of her friend. And it kind of starts from there and it goes through spans like the next 10 or 15 years in Shelby's life as she kind of starts getting out a little bit, she kind of steps out of her depression a little bit, kind of starts to get over it, and goes to New York and finds out what she wants to do. She ends up figuring out like what she wants to study, and she gets friends and she finds love and all this kind of stuff. I really enjoyed this. It started out quite dark and twisty, and there would be trigger warnings for things like sexual assault and depression and self-harm and stuff like that, particularly at the start of the book, but it starts getting lighter as the book goes on. The book gets lighter and lighter and the story gets happier, and as Shelby gets happier and she kind of starts to forgive herself for the things that happened when she was younger, and she kind of starts realising that these things weren't necessarily her fault and the people around her start to kind of help her. And I just really enjoyed this. I really liked Shelby. I thought she was a really great character. I got a really good feel of her. And it was kind of like the other Alice Hoffman book I read, The Museum of Extraordinary Things, where it wasn't until I was almost at the end of the book that I realised how much I liked it. It wasn't until it was almost finished that I realised how much I enjoyed it and how much of a great book that I thought it was. And I feel like Alice Hoffman has this kind of magic, the way she's able to weave the stories together and weave these characters and their lives and just have everything together so seamlessly, and it's just magical. She really is an amazing writer and I really enjoy her writing, and I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished was a bit of a strange one, and it was 15 Dogs by Andrea Alexis. This is kind of a short story about the gods Apollo and Hermes, and basically Hermes, I'm not really sure actually how to say that, but basically they decide to give 15 dogs the power of human thought, and it's about these dogs, and it follows these dogs through the rest of their lives as they basically are able to think like humans, and they begin to understand humans, and they even, like, some of them even begin to be able to talk to humans, like in the English language they're able to talk back to their humans. And I don't know, I'm not sure if I really got this book. It was just really strange. There were some bits I liked about it and other bits I didn't like, and I can't really say too much because I don't want to, like, spoil the story. It wasn't necessarily like a happy read. There were some like kind of depressing things that happened in it, particularly to most of the dogs. Like, I don't think most of the dogs didn't really have like a really great life after they got the power of human thought. It didn't make their lives any better, and they probably would have actually been better just like, you know, their normal doggy selves. They would have actually had happier lives. So yeah, I was just a little bit, I don't know, I didn't really know what to think about this one, so I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Coldest Girl in Coldtown by Holly Black, and this was my October TBR jar pick of the month, which I haven't finally read. And this is basically about a girl called Tana, and Tana lives in this world where vampires exist, and humans know vampires exist, but there's these towns called cold towns all around the world, and that's basically where vampires are supposed to live, and the people who have gotten bitten are supposed to live there as well, and if they want to turn they can turn, and if they don't they have to wait like a certain amount of days before they're free of infection and they can kind of buy their way back into living with the rest of the human population again. I thought this was pretty interesting. This is about kind of Tana. She wakes up at a party and basically everyone else is dead, and she ends up rescuing a friend of hers who has been bitten, and this other guy who is a vampire, and she ends up rescuing them from the other vampires that are at the party, and they make their way to Coldtown, and it's kind of about Tana's decisions about whether she wants to go into Coldtown, how she's going to get back, and kind of her relationships with the two guys that she's with then as well. I thought this was really well written. I really liked the writing of it. The story didn't like blow me away at any point, but I thought for like a vampire story it was quite original, and that the the way the Coldtowns worked and stuff, it kind of came about really well. We kind of learned more and more and more about the Coldtowns as we went on. It wasn't just like this big massive info dump straight away. Basically, we kind of learned gradually, and that's how I kind of like learning about these kind of things. So I enjoyed that. I thought Tana herself as a character was really interesting. She was quite strong and she really knew what she wanted to do, and I was really rooting for her entire through the entire story. I really liked her. And then as well, her relationship with Gabrielle, who was the vampire, and how that progresses, I thought that was really great as well. I thought the characters had a really natural chemistry from kind of the get-go between them, and it made reading their relationship, and as their relationship kind of got stronger, and how they kind of bonded with each other, it just made it flow really, really well between them. So I really liked that. So yes, overall I did really enjoy this. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, and I will definitely be checking out other books by Holly Black because I really enjoyed this. I'd actually love a sequel for this book as well, but I don't think there is one. But I'd love just to know more about Tana and where she goes after the book finished, and kind of how things progressed afterwards. And yeah, I just would really like to know. I don't know, I just think she's a character that I would like to follow for a few books rather than just one. So yes, I did enjoy it, and 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I finished is one I've been reading for a couple of weeks on my phone from the library, and it was The North Water by Ian McGuire. This was one of the books that I was shortlisted for the Man Booker Prize of the Year, I think, or longlisted. This one is set in the 19th century, and it is about a whaling boat, and it's about this Irish surgeon who kind of signs on board with this whaling ship, and it's about the rest of the crew and kind of how things aren't really as they seem once they kind of get going, and there seems to be kind of weird things happening. There's like a murder on board, and they know that there's obviously a murderer on board, and they're trying to figure out who that is. And it kind of goes from there, and we're getting most of the story from this Irish guy's point of view. This book, I enjoyed it and I didn't enjoy it at the same time. It was quite grim, but I enjoyed kind of the descriptions. I enjoyed the setting, the kind of Arctic setting that they were going to. I didn't enjoy the amount of violence towards animals in it, and I do understand that this is like a historical novel, and obviously it is a whaling ship, so there is going to be the killing of whales, but they also killed seals and killed a mother bear in front of her cub. And there were some just really graphic scenes where I felt like, we're aware that, this is a whaling ship and the whales are being killed and the animals are being killed, but just how graphic the scenes were described, I didn't enjoy, and it just made me feel upset because I just don't like reading those things. There was a bit where they killed a mother polar bear, and they killed her and then skinned her in front of her cub because they decided they were going to keep the cub to try and sell him to a zoo. And it was just so horrible, just the thought of this cub watching his mother being skinned. I understand that there is violence towards animals, I understand that this was a way of life for people, but I just don't need it described in such detail. So I gave this like a 3.5 out of 5 stars, I think, in the end, just because it's almost like a 3.5, 3.75, kind of, it's in between, as I did think it was really, really well written, but I did have my problems with it as well. But once I kind of got stuck into it, I did find it fast to finish, once I got to a point where I was really, really stuck into the story. I wanted to find out what happened. The next book I read was also a Neck Alley book called To Capture What We Cannot Keep, and this one was by Beatrice, Colin, and this one was set in like the 1880s in Paris, France, and it's about this Scottish woman called Katrina, and she is a chaperone to this man and woman who are siblings, and she's kind of accompanying them through Paris and kind of like a trip around the world. And then the other character in this is Emile, and he is an engineer with the man who basically designed the Eiffel Tower, and he is helping construct the Eiffel Tower. And Katrina and Emile meet, and they kind of fall in love. There's like an instant spark between them, and they gradually fall in love, but there's all these circumstances kind of keeping them apart, and it's just kind of their story and how they kind of keep coming together, and just how their kind of love story plays out, I guess. I really, really enjoyed this one. This one wasn't full of action. It didn't have this big, massive, amazing, like, dramatic plot. It was kind of a quiet book, that kind of just like, it was just nice to read, and it was nice to read about Paris, and I really, really enjoyed the fact that this was set around the building of the Eiffel Tower, because we all know how iconic the Eiffel Tower is now in Paris, and just hearing like the way she'd written the engineers talking about it and saying like, oh, it might only stand for 20 years or something, or it might only stand for a few years, it might not mean anything, but like we want it to mean something, we want it to be a symbol for France and stuff like that. And I would love to like reach into the book and show them what the Eiffel Tower means to Paris and and France and the world today, and what an iconic symbol it is today. I just would have loved to have shown them that. So it was just really interesting, and like there was all these different facts about it, the way like the metal was like built and how everything had to be the exact or else it would like crumble, and yeah, there was just really interesting facts about the Eiffel Tower in this book that I just really enjoyed. But I did enjoy the relationship. I just thought it flowed really nicely. The writing was really lovely, and it was just a really lovely book to read. As I said, it wasn't amazingly dramatic. There wasn't really crazy things happening. It was just a quiet, lovely book, and a kind of a relaxing read as well, and I did enjoy that. 4 out of 5 stars. The book that I'm almost finished at the moment is Closed in Common Orbit by Becky Chambers, and this is the standalone sequel to the A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I think you could probably read this book without reading A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, but I would suggest reading that one first, because I just feel like you would get a feeling for the world more. You would be a little bit, tiny bit confused about this one, but this one is basically about a character called Pepper, who we met in A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet briefly. She was just like a brief character in it, and this is about her and this AI called Sidra, and it's basically just about them. Kind of, we learn about Pepper's past and where she came from, and then Sidra is kind of dealing with the fact that she is an AI, and an AI that is kind of basically living like a human is illegal, and she has to try and not get caught, and she's kind of trying to learn how to be like a human even though she's an AI. I think people who like the show Human, the BBC show Humans, would really like this one, because it's very similar. And yes, I am enjoying it so far. It has a little bit more of an actual plot than A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. I think I liked A Small Way to Angry Planet so far better just because of the characters in that one, and where there aren't that many characters in this one that like I could really fall in love with. I do like the characters in this one, I just don't like them as much. So at the moment I'm like 100 pages from the end. I think this is probably going to be a 4.5 stars at the moment, but I am really enjoying it, and yeah, I can't wait for the third one. I think there's going to be a third one in this series as well, so I can't wait for that one. So that is everything that I've read this week. I'm also going to be doing Vlogmas this year, or I'm going to attempt to do it. I need to start pre-filming. So if there's any videos that you guys would like me to do, please let me know, and I can see if I can try and fit them into the Vlogmas schedule. We will see, but I'm really looking forward to it, attempting it, because I loved watching some of my favourite booktubers videos last year. So yes, I can't wait. Please let me know what you guys think down below, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!